Otakon with the lovely Miss Sandy Fox.
Hello.
Yes. I'm going to say it off the break right now because we're going to do a podcast on. We're coming up on a show of Sailor Moon.
Wonderful.
And you're doing Chibi Usagi. So please tell me about that role. Please tell me, are you how is that doing? Because you've done plenty of. I know you've done plenty of big roles or important roles and all that. But what about this one did you like about this one?
Wow. Well, first of all, when I auditioned, it was top secret. I didn't know about the other cast. They had already been recording for quite a while. And I get this secret email, and I had to read not only for Chibiusa, but for Black Lady.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then I got a call back, and they said, well, your Black Lady's too evil, and I'm like,
how?
I'm like, yes! You don't know, I was so excited since I don't read for evil characters once in a blue moon. But, and I really didn't understand the impact of Chibiusa and the Sailor Moon series until my first Sailor Moon day at Anime Expo. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, wow, I really got it. I didn't grow up with the series in the 90s. I'm a little bit older than that. But I've always seen cosplay and things like that. But, to really see the impact of Sailor Moon and the stories, and also now that Viz Media is keeping the entire manga intact.
Exactly.
So now we're talking, Neptune and Uranus, their relationship is exactly the way it was written.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, I feel that when our media represents the world in an authentic, loving, compassionate way, that it teaches the rest of the world how to be with each other, right? It's like, oh, that's normal, that's normal, that's normal. We all love each other. How cool is that?
They had to keep it so secret because that was the big thing. We were in high school when that news came. Because, it was not so much the infancy of the internet, but when everybody started to know everything about the series, you do realize about Uranus and Neptune, wait a minute, what? And everybody freaked out about it, and when it got on television, they kind of had to...
They edited parts out,
kept it very subtle.
They had it wasn't huge chunks like the first season of Sailor Moon, but it was still you can notice that they were trying to hide something.
Notice, and you understandably where we were then to where we are now.
Of course.
And so I just think we're in a beautiful time where everything is being acknowledged and accepted, and kids don't have to hide their feelings or feel ashamed or I'm different. That they can relate to each character in Sailor Moon, and I love that about all the Sailor Guardians. There's always something they're struggling with, right?
Yeah, there's always something.
Yeah.
So I guess, in terms of voice acting, how has, the evolution of, we got access to the internet and all that stuff, so how has that kind of influenced, I guess, you guys' job in terms of, voice acting and stuff? I mean, is it just you have more access to fans now, comparably, or?
I would definitely say, we were so behind the scenes before the internet and social media. I mean, I started doing anime when we were dubbing in garages in LA, and I was learning how to dub. And for me, it was I always tell people it's like being a drummer, because there's numbers flying by, there's beeps going. I mean, it's very, very technical. Mm-hmm. A lot of people in the voice acting industry thought of anime foreign dubbing, kind of poo-pooed it. Oh, you're doing anime, that's just this little underground thing. But it's very technical. I think it's much harder to act in that timed space, to really have to fit all that emotion into those flaps and that writing. It's just very, very technical. So that's a whole nother element you have to think about when you're dubbing. But I do feel like that evolution has changed dramatically because of the internet, because now we're not so much behind the scenes. People know who we are. And also, in the same way, I've also noticed that casting directors for big studios like Marvel and Disney, they look at, how many Twitter followers does this person have? We're going to be casting these 3 people. Which one has the most Twitter followers? And, that never used to be a consideration. Are you working your social media really hard,
It's become a thing,
Yeah, it's become a thing.
Everywhere, actually.
Because everything is marketing now. like they're using it as, you know, everything is marketing. So understandably, you want that actor that has that big following, but you didn't think that would come into play, you know.
Yeah. Speaking of the evolution of voice acting, just, you know, just doing dubbing.
Yeah.
Compared to where it was, like you said, in garages, how different is it now compared to it was back then?
It's so much, you know, it's so much better. Not only technology and with, you know, the Pro Tools and everything that we have, you know, in the studio.
Pro Tools is the best.
Well, but just the evolution of Pro Tools and just what you can do in the studio to, I mean, you have 25 years of a pool of actors and directors and producers that have been honing this craft.
Right.
So they're amazing, you know. So I think it's just the bar's been constantly raised. And so, yeah, I think it's just the acting is improved incredibly because it isn't an art to like really find your way and bring that acting to that, you know, dubbing.
So you're like doing bit voices for Betty Boop, like
Yes.
like how did you get approached to actually?
Oh, okay. Well, Betty Boop has kind of been like a cartoon angel of mine my whole life. Years ago, when I was 17, I started working for the Walt Disney Company in Orlando as an entertainer, singer, dancer, character actress, comedian. And I was asked, this is a funny story, but I was 18 years old in Florida and I was working at a Bennigan's. Do you know what a Bennigan's is?
Yes.
So I was the hostess, and I'm like, last call for alcohol, you know. So, and this man walks up to me in this like bow tie and paper hat, and he's like, well, hello there. He said, do you sing with that voice? Do you know who Helen Kane is? And I'm like 18. I have no idea who Helen Kane is. She was one of the first, she was a pop singer in the 20s and one of the first Betty Boop's, you know, voices. And so I auditioned for his orchestra. For 11 years, I sang with this 1920s jazz orchestra. All the songs of Betty Boop. Sometimes they go, can you dress like Betty Boop? And then I got a call, Universal Studios, and it wasn't Florida, it was Hollywood.
Oh, wow.
So I got a call to audition for Betty Boop, and so that's what brought me to LA. And that's when I got my first voice agent, and
the rest is it.
yeah, the rest is it. So I just did the line of 5 singing Betty Boop toys.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you still do Betty Boop?
Yeah, I still do Betty Boop, and there's some really cool Betty Boop stuff coming. I just did this animated piece for Zach Posen and his new couture line of Betty Boop. He did Betty Boop dresses.
Great.
Wow.
Yeah, in the Lancome commercial, they flew me to Paris, and I got to...
Believe it or not, I know this is probably not going to mean much to you, but there's a lot of black girls that are going to be wearing...
I mean, it's a huge thing.
It's a huge thing.
Oh,
it's a huge thing with us.
No, internationally, though.
Yeah, internationally.
I mean, in France and in Brazil, and I mean, around the world, Betty Boop. I mean, she is the queen of cartoons.
Yeah, she is.
And she's the first ever talking cartoon. So.
Yeah, she is.
And, you know, that was, you know, the Fleischer brother. I mean, that was a big thing.
Yeah.
So, I guess
So going from that, going from Betty Boop,
Yeah.
I just had the one voice I know you off the break, with like that Sandy Fox, was actually doing the Tachikoma.
Oh, yeah!
Yes.
Pato!
So how I had to think either because I asked who was it, Stephanie Shea last year, does it annoy you to do that voice? But I gotta imagine you love doing it.
Yeah, I do, because, you know, I don't, you know, until I hear myself recorded, I think I have a much lower voice, you know.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't feel annoying, it's just natural for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Tachikomas, that was really cool. We had no idea back then what
huge.
Ghost in the Shell. You know, this was like mid-90s, and there was maybe like 6 of us that did these Tachikomas. Sometimes we were all together in this little booth, you know. But we did a panel a few years ago just on the philosophy of Ghost in the Shell.
Oh, I love it.
And just, you know, the fact that, you know, the humans are becoming more AI, and the machines want this desire to be human, and just like, and how that's reflected in what's happening now, right?
Yeah.
It's, you know, I think they just shut down a robot in Japan because it created its own language.
And the same thing, Facebook, they said they started making their own language. Like, okay, stop.
Okay, stop. Yeah.
The technology is moving too fast. I would often make a joke to, actually, it's three of us. And me and my other partner, we always make the joke like, hey, in 2040, we getting cyber brain. We won't get a cyber brain because we're really serious. I love that series so much.
So it's a powerful series.
Oh, yeah.
A little dark, you know. That's why the Tachikomas were such nice, you know.
You would have
levity.
You would have, like you said, they would have these moments where it's dark, and all of a sudden, okay, Major, like, wait a minute.
So you're about to kill some people now?
I know.
It's like and that's another thing. Is I hear your voice, and then it's like the Tachiko was like shooting all of these people. I'm like, whoa.
I know.
But anyways, appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you.
Hey everybody, it's Three Red Geeks, and we're with Tony Oliver. How you doing, sir?
Real good.
Real good. All right, I'm just going to start this off with the break. We're there's three of us. There's only two of us right now, but we love Lupin. So, can you tell us what do you like about Lupin and all, and that role itself?
Well, I like the voice. Mm-hmm. He's a lot of fun to do. So, because it's very sing-songy and very cartoony, and it's really easy to do and a lot of fun. What I liked most about the series is, first of all, when I was cast in it, I'd never really done a comedy before. I'd done little bits and pieces, but I've never played a main comic lead on stage, on film, anyplace else. So it was kind of cool to step in, and it's scary, but to do a comedy I was shocked when I got the call. I was like, really? No, I'm playing Goemon, right? No, you're playing the other.
Wow.
So, and it's just been a lot of fun. The cast, the chemistry with everybody, even though we work separately, it's all centered around the director, who was Richard Epcar in this case, who's kind of really kept it fun.
I didn't know that he did that.
He also plays Zenigata. He's been in almost every iteration of Lupin, the ones we did and others. So that's really been my favorite part of it, is the character was so fun. Because it was a Cold War comedy and we had to update it, we got to play a little bit with the comedy and make it, working with Michelle and Dan and Lex and those guys, it's a lot of fun. We've all known each other for a long time. And so you can hear the timing coming at you through the headphones, and I know their timing, so now I can play the timing back. It was a fun experience, and then to get to do it again 10 years later, that was really good.
And that was really fun to see. I didn't even know that the show was not even the show, just another iteration of it was coming back. I was like, and first thing I heard was Lupin's voice, and I was like, that's Tony Oliver. Oh my God, they got everybody back again.
Yeah, everybody but Dan. Dan Logier, because he retired from acting.
I heard about that.
So, what does it feel like to be part of like Robotech? That's like big. I mean, we grew up in that era where like Robotech was the big thing, and you were like the Rick Hunter. That's the man, outside of Roy Fokker. What was that like? I mean, how did you actually get that part? As there you go. See,
I auditioned for it. I was a very, very out of work actor, trying to break into movies and television in L.A. And there was an ad in the trades asking for someone who was over 18 who could sound like they were under 18, which I could do, and who had ADR experience, which I did not have. So I lied. Technically, I hadn't lied because I had done one line of ADR. I had dubbed one line for a student film that I'd been in, and I had to dub over myself, and it was just into a movie. It doesn't really count. Yeah. But I used it as an excuse.
Yeah.
And that was for a little Louis Malle film. Louis Malle is a French director. If you've ever seen one of his movies, it's mostly about World War II and being a Jewish child in World War II, and at the end of the movie, you want to jump out the window. They're so depressing. They're important films, but they're very depressing. Yeah. And they liked what I did there, so they pulled me into another room and auditioned me. And gave me a part in this feature called The Sea Prince and the Fire Child. I know this is a long route, but it gets there. Mm-hmm. Sea Prince and the Fire Child, and they gave me the lead. Silly people. Because I had no idea what I was doing. And so I made it through that, and that ended up on television. And so about a year later, I get a phone call from some guy named Robert Barron, who was this big, deep voice. Are you the Tony Oliver that did Sea Prince and the Fire Child? I said, yes, I am. So could you come in and audition for something? And so it was a paid audition, which is very unusual. That never happens. So I came in and did a little part on another show, and they said, great, we're going to cast you as Rick Yamada in this little thing. It's just a 3-episode movie we're putting together. It's from a thing called Macross. It's not going anywhere.
20 years later.
And then a few weeks later, I got a call. What's now called Robotech, you're Rick Hunter. It's a series. We need you in next Friday. It was kind of like that. So it's, it just I kind of tripped and fell into it and just happened to be lucky enough to be with a producer who was willing to give an untried actor a shot at a big role.
And I was going to ask you about that. You do a couple of younger sounding voices, and I'm going to say it's almost similar how you do Lupin. It's almost like the same thing where you just lighten your voice in it.
Yeah, it's technique. It's pushing all of the vibration into the head to get rid of the chest stuff and make it. I can't sound like a real young person anymore. Because I don't talk like young people do, and so I can do a cartoony guy, but it's all pushing the voice up into the head and losing chest vibrations, and you can do it the other way, just throw it down to the chest and lose the head stuff. So that's how we do multiple voices in the same show.
Yeah, I was really thinking about it. I was like, he did. I was looking at at least like all the stuff you had done before, and I said Vandre. I'm like, I remember Vandre. Like he did a Beaky. I forgot about that. Like that was not him.
Well, it's me. I actually listening to it years later, and I never told this to him when I met him, but because if you listen really close, it's. My character in Vandred is actually Luke Skywalker in the trash compactor shouting up to 3PO! That's
yeah, oh my gosh, yes! The whole voice is like that the whole time. The whole time. There's no joke. It's mostly yelling.
Yeah, I didn't realize that till I listened to it years later. And I met him. I met Mark once. We worked together on one thing, and I almost said it, but I just thought it would be too weird.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy doing producing? Because I know you did some stuff with Power Rangers, on the production side and stuff. So was that more enjoyable doing that, and you didn't have to really do a lot of voice work much?
Oh no, it's much harder. Yeah, no, producing is a lot less work and a lot more stress. Wow. Your job is to worry about everything and to put out every fire and to make, because everything that doesn't go smoothly costs more money, and that's what you're responsible for.
Wow, exactly.
And I was a television producer, so that meant I was also responsible for creative. So I enjoyed producing immensely. I learned a lot about the business by producing and how to make stuff and all that stuff. I'm directing mostly these days, and I really enjoy that because I don't have the money stress that comes with producing. Exactly. But I have a lot of creative input, and that's a lot of fun. I like doing it all. In fact, the least favorite thing I do is write, and that's at times been the majority of my living. So it depends on what's going on, what year is it, and that's what I'm focused on.
Now, do you write for the shows actually, or do you or is it like separate writing?
I've done both. I was the head writer for Power Rangers for the first couple seasons, and so I wrote a number of those episodes and ran the team. Up until just a couple of years ago, I adapted nearly every script that I directed for anime.
Wow, and, I didn't know that. I wasn't really sure about that.
But I got to the point where it's too much work and I didn't want to do it anymore.
The evolution, actually, that's one thing I always ask a lot of people who especially been in the business for quite a while. The evolution of dubbing, how has it been for you? Just how it used to be to it is now. How is it a lot better?
It's a lot different. It's considerably. I mean, technology alone and the fact that the actors now coming into the business are already skilled, already know what they're walking into. When I first started, what was anime dubbing? What was that? Something for airplanes? What? And it was always that really bad stuff. So now the actors walk in having been fans. And that makes a big difference because they know the genre walking in the door. Technologically, where we used to be able to do, when I first started doing it, we were on reel-to-reel tape. The video was coming off a 3/4-inch videotape, which was just slightly better than a VHS, really. And you couldn't hear everybody because it was only an 8-track tape. There's 30 characters, so whatever tape you happen to be on that day. We got maybe 10 to 12 lines an hour recorded. Well, once the audio went digital, video went digital, there's no more erasing. We can pop from thing to thing. We can actually expand and contract the sound without changing the pitch. There's a lot of things we can do to it. So now it records at 30, 40, sometimes 50 lines an hour, which is what's made it affordable.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it used to take a week to do an episode. It takes 2.5 daes now. So that's changed everything. That changed the financial picture. But the most important part is the fact that the American audiences have opened to it, with stuff like Kill Bill and Matrix and those kinds of shows coming into play. They've kind of opened the hearts of Americans to that culture of storytelling, which has allowed anime to really kind of expand among the young people and now being embraced by adults again. So I think it's been this beautiful
Yeah, actually. Yeah.
Since I kind of started, it's kind of And I started with Robotech. I think started that because Carl Masek. He's the one that really brought it into the mainstream.
Exactly.
So it kind of all starts there, I think.
Yeah, that was that really got us to it. Get one more question?
Yeah, I'm out.
I guess that's it. No, I had another question. I already did. If anything, you hit the table.
Yeah, sorry.
It's all good.
Whoa.
All right, don't drop. Anyway, we're here with Vic Mignogna, right? I hate getting your last name wrong. I hate getting it wrong for real. I really do.
I'm going to test your Spanish.
Okay.
How do you say tomorrow in Spanish?
You know that better than me, man.
Anybody?
I can read Spanish. I can't say Spanish. Not mañana.
Yes!
It is mañana, right? Yeah, mañana, right?
No.
So let's start over and say that.
Vic Mignogna?
Boom! He shoots, he scores.
Okay,
Are
wow.
you serious?
Yep.
Wow.
Get the hell out of
Yeah, dude,
Okay.
it's Italian. So it's spelled Italian. Like the GN,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mignogn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like lasagna,
Yeah. Okay.
bologna,
Yeah,
filet mignon.
Bologna is the proper.
Right.
When you said
Mignana.
that,
Mignon. Actually, if you were in Italy, it would be mignogna.
Mignon.
But nobody says that.
Nobody. No.
We all say mignon.
That's all good. Okay. That means, all right. So anyway, just to get it out the way, we just did a podcast for Dragon Ball Z, and we did actually doing the Broly movie. So
Good.
I had to ask this question: Did you get sick of saying Kakarot so many
Dude.
times?
You have no idea.
I knew.
You know what? Somebody told me that in one of the video games, you can push a sequence of buttons, and it'll just like all the Kakarots, it'll do them all one right after the other. You can hear all of them. And you know what? I got to tell you, every time I get called to do another Dragon Ball Z video game, part of me wants to say, dude, you have me saying Kakarot 8,000 times. Why do you even need me to come in?
Take that recording.
But I want to make a paycheck, right? I want to get the job. So when they call me and say, hey, you got another DBZ video game, I'm like, good, I'll be there. But part of me is like, really? Every time I go in, he says the same things, and so yeah, I'm sure there should be a folder somewhere on somebody's computer with like 18 million Kakarots.
Oh my gosh!
Yes.
Because we got to it's like that's all he says in this movie. He doesn't say nothing else. He doesn't even I think he grunts maybe once or twice.
Yep. Yeah, that's why the first Broly movie was the best.
That was
because
the
he
best
actually
one, yeah.
talked a little bit.
Yeah, those
And
conversations.
after a while, it's just like
It was
come
just
on.
actual dialogue.
Right.
And I made the joke. I was like, maybe they did like the Road Runner. Maybe he just said Kakarot once and they just dubbed it over 1,000 times.
That's right. That's right.
No, of course they couldn't. Anyway.
So when you got called back for Full Metal Alchemist, because clearly, it's like got the original one and it was like Brotherhood. In my head, I was like, are they going to recast Brotherhood? And I was like, oh, he's back for. So did they get everybody back? Did they really
would
get?
They would have had a riot on their hands if they had tried to recast that show. I mean, everybody that was involved in the first Full Metal loved it so much. Me more than anybody. I had probably done 50 or 60 anime series before I did Full Metal. Mm-hmm. And nothing ever really grabbed me the way Full Metal did. I just loved it.
Especially since it was like closer to the manga and everything.
So when Brotherhood came out, I was like, oh, they'd better use the same people. And they did. And I mean, as much as they could. And some people had moved away and stuff. A couple of parts were recast. But for the most part, it was all the same people. And oh my gosh, I'd have lost it if they tried to recast that. But fortunately, the first one did so well, was so popular on Adult Swim and stuff, that I think there was no question that they would use the same people.
Mm-hmm. My wife personally is going to hate me if I don't say this. When you did not so much when you did Tamaki in Orange High School.
Oh, we love Tamaki.
But that being said, that in a whole, your voice is pretty much a heartthrob.
Is it?
It really is to a lot of girls.
You know what? I don't
always
think
play
that's true. I think it's the character.
I think it's the character. Yes, it's a character. But
so
the
whenever
helps.
people are like, oh, all these girls love you, I'm like, no, they don't. They love Tamaki.
They love.
They want some Tamaki. They love the princess and host club king. Or Ed.
Yeah.
They don't like, they're not in love with me. They're in love with the character.
Yeah, of course it's the character. Yes.
And so, I'm grateful for that. But, I'm definitely not 15, and I'm definitely not in high school running a host club. But I wish I were, but I'm not. So you tell your wife I said hello. Give her a hug for me.
All right.
Yeah, that also is another question to it. Some of the dialogue in all of those, like in those same type of anime, do you ever cringe at some of the lines like just like we know what it's for, but at the same time it's like
Well, I don't cringe. Some of them may make me laugh or go, oh my God. But as you said, you know what they're for. I mean, you understand why they're written the way they're written, and they appeal to a certain audience.
Oh, yes,
right?
yes.
Like if you're trying to appeal to, 10-year-old boys, you make a certain kind of an anime with certain action or whatever. And if you're appealing to teenage girls, or if you're appealing to people who like horror or people who like mech shows, you write and you craft the show for your audience. And those kind of shows, I guess they're Bishonen kind of, pretty boy shows, and then there are obviously pretty girl shows for, go both ways. They're meant, they're meant for certain audiences. Mm-hmm. So
I've always been curious, like a lot of anime voice actors and stuff, or actresses and such. What is your guys' take on like how Adult Swim, or at least Cartoon Network period, has like done for like anime to really kind of bring it to the front?
Well, for whatever criticism people give them for like editing something or whatever, I think the anime industry owes a big debt of gratitude to these channels that actually put anime on television. I mean, I had done lots of anime series that just went straight to DVD, and it wasn't until I got on Dragon Ball Z, and then maybe I think Case Closed, and Full Metal, and then some of these shows, Naruto and Bleach and Kakaishi was a show that I did that was on Cartoon Network.
Yeah, that was on there for a while.
That people, a larger audience, a wider audience sees it. Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Beyblades, all that kind of stuff, right?
Another one, Street Fighter 2V.
Yeah,
I saw it on Stars. Stars was showing anime for a while.
See, and if it weren't for that, those channels showing anime, I don't think a lot of people it wouldn't be anywhere near as popular and well known and commonplace as it is now. So I'm very grateful to them, and it's really been a pleasure and a blessing to be a part of the industry.
Cool. Yeah, what's your favorite genre though? What's your favorite genre to do? Yeah, I know like most say anything that comes in front of me, but what do you
of anime?
Like? Yeah, of anime. What do you like doing?
I like drama. I like really heart-moving, compelling stories.
And that's probably why you like Full Metal.
Loved Full Metal
because that did everything.
I loved Full Metal. It was funny when it wanted to be, and then it was just heartbreaking when it needed to be, and there was action, but the relationships, the relationships between Ed and his brother, and Ed and Winry. Mm-hmm. I just loved that show. And I always enjoy those kind of shows where there's a real heartstrings pulled kind of a theme behind the show.
Yeah, I saw your name on the credit for that Marvel anime because I know there was like
The Reflection.
Yeah, for that
dude,
one.
It's going to be awesome. That's going to be really cool. I've been recording that. It's going to be really neat. It's really cool to be a part of that.
How was it doing that Wolverine one though? Because I know you were kind of doing voices for that as well. Like,
Wolverine was cool. Again, that was really a cool thing to be a part of.
It's kind of same as the Marvel Machine, kind of sort of.
Yes. And then there was the Iron Man.
Oh, you were on that?
Yeah, he was in Iron
Man.
Yeah, you want to hear a funny story about the Iron Man anime?
Yeah.
I almost got to play Tony Stark.
Oh man!
I was this close to getting cast as Tony Stark.
Oh.
And then some famous guy who was on Heroes or
Vic,
Lost
it's the other
or
one. Yeah, it's
Supernatural
the bad,
or
I think
something.
It was
I forgot
Hero.
his name.
It was Hero. He was the guy that was like the bad guy in that
He
one.
said, "Oh, I want to play as Tony Stark," and so he's a superstar, right? Or he's a TV star. I'm nobody. So they're like, "Oh, you can play it. We want you to do it because you're a big star." Okay, so they cast him.
Yeah.
I didn't get to do it, but I was in the studio one day doing some bit part in Iron Man, and I was playing a character who was actually talking to Tony Stark.
Yeah.
And the actor that ended up getting cast as Tony Stark had already recorded. So his lines were already recorded,
done.
so I could hear what he did. So he did a line. I heard him. I heard his recording. And just for fun, I don't even know why, just for the fun of it, I imitated it. Like, he said whatever he said, kind of snarky, and I said whatever he said, kind of snarky. Exactly like right after he said it, I repeated it. Mm-hmm. And the producer that was in the control room went, "Is that you?" And I said, "Yeah, just messing around." And she goes, "Hold on a minute." And I'm thinking, oh, crap. You'll get fired for making fun of the Heroes guy, whatever. So then they come back on the talkback intercom and they go, "Hey, the guy that does Iron Man, he's a singer as well. And he doesn't like to do all of the fighting, yelling, exertions because he says it hurts his voice."
Wow.
So we're going to go to a scene where Iron Man's fighting, and we want you to do all of his voices, and because you sound just like him. So they went to this scene where Iron Man's fighting, and I recorded all of the, and all of that stuff.
Wow.
And they're like, "That's perfect." So anytime Iron Man's fighting in the Iron Man anime, it's me doing his stunt voicing. I don't get to be the guy. I just end up doing all. And what's really funny is I'm a singer. Like I treasure my voice as much as anybody. But hey, he didn't want to do it, and they asked me to do it, and so far be it from me to go, "Oh no," So I just kind of jumped in there and ended up doing all of Tony Stark's stunt fighting voice.
That's actually awesome.
Appreciate your time.
Yep.
Thank you so much for
My
talking
pleasure,
to us.
guys. My pleasure.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Go. All right. Still here at Otakon. We're with Michael Sinternaklass. How you doing today?
Pretty good. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Is it morning?
I mean, it
It's
was
afternoon now. It's afternoon now. Yeah.
it's morning someplace.
Yeah, somewhere.
It's morning where I came from.
Yeah. You go ahead.
I'll kick it off.
All right.
I love you as Dean Venture.
See, I knew he was going to say that.
I had to pivot to
That's
that
not even
because that's my favorite show. I love it. So I love how you play him. How did you? I mean, was that your idea to actually play him as that character, or was that kind of like the creators'
I mean,
vision?
okay, so there's something of an evolution to that. But when I first got called in, I got a call from a friend of mine, Mike Foran, who I used to work at a game developer with. I was the audio lead, and he was one of the lead animators. And we were also the two top Quake players at the office.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so and he's awesome. He called me up when he had this new job at Noodle Soup. And he was like, "Yo, I just thought of you. You know, Chris, who you met before, he's doing this new show, and he needs this like young voice. And you did all those young voices on that game we did. I did like temp voices that all the programmers were like, we love these. We're just going to use them. And I was like, but we didn't. So he was like, you can do young voices. Come in and audition for this thing. I was like, dope. When? He goes, now. I go, I'm at a client's office. I don't know if I can. I just opened my studio, NYB Post, and I was like, I can't leave right now. He goes, well, it records tomorrow, and it's got to be now. And we had a whole day of auditions. I didn't like anybody, and I should have thought of you sooner, but I didn't. And I was about to be like, well, maybe next time, and walk away from Venture Brothers. And then I said, well, where are you guys? And they were literally 2 blocks away on the same avenue from where I was in New York. So I was like, actually, let me wrap this up, and I'll be over there. So I go over there, and I meet this guy, Miguel, incredible artist, also the skinniest man alive. And in the season 2 DVD box, there's a picture of Doc turning around, looking coy, holding his glasses. Mm-hmm. It's actually a photo reference of Miguel, just like with Doc's face sort of
Wow.
photoshopped in. And so he's like, "Oh, hey, nice to meet you. Please read for this. These are like corny boys. I'm like, corny boys? Like, oh yes, very corny boys. I go, like, you mean like, oh, like those, like Davy and Goliath, those old, like, stop motion. He's like, yes, like this. So I go in the booth, and I was thinking about my voice director a little bit from Turtles, Sue Blue, who was a legend. She was RC. She was an Autobot. She was a misfit.
Wow,
She was in, like, G.I. Joe.
Because I heard that you said the name, I was like, I think I know that name.
Yeah. Sue Blue. It's like it's also
she was RC.
BLU, I think it was, too. Like not
Yeah.
BLUE or anything. I don't hope I didn't mess her name up. Edit. And and then she, but she would say the word robot like robot. And we would sometimes try to sneak it in Turtles, like when we're doing crowd scenes, like we're the Turtles, and go back and cover all the people going, oh no, space invaders, and oh, look out for the giant robots. And she would go, wow, what did you say? Oh, we said robot. Do it again. Okay, fine. But I used that in the audition, and there was a thing where he was talking about, we're going to blast this shuttle into orbit. And they're blasting cups off the bidet in the hotel, which is only part of the extended pilot. And halfway through the audition, I'm in a closet with a tiny microphone with a stocking in front of it, and Miguel's kneeling in front of a chair with a DAT recorder, a digital audio tape. It was another time.
Yeah, I understand. Just wow.
And he starts shaking his head, and I'm like, halfway through reading, I'm like, he hates me. Great. And he goes, oh, no, he's perfect. He's Dean. And then that was it. And I went off. So that's how it started. But so that was the seed of doing it. Like a little bit of Sue Blue, a little bit of like Davy and Goliath. And then when we got a pickup to do the series for the first season, the network note was, we love the show, but can you make the boys less gay ass?
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure we were all like, nope. No, it's sort of the appeal. So so that continued, and then over time, I just found more and more in common with Dean, and I brought more and more myself to it. The funny thing is, Jackson Public was a little bit concerned and confused by how popular Dean was getting, and was like, doesn't make sense. Hank is clearly the cooler brother.
Yeah.
Dean is lame, right? So we tried to make Dean even more lame, which I hesitate to say this, but relate to. I was always the new kid. I was fat. I was awkward. I had a British accent. I had headgear with my braces. I had acne. I was always like, unlovable, right? Unless you had a really good heart, and then or were my mother. But so I was always like more awkward, more it's okay. Like I can't talk to girls, but it's not a problem because I don't expect to. And then that made him even more pathetic, and it garnered even more sympathy.
I was about to say it's more sympathy. I think that's what it really is.
And now over time, someone, a writer who does a lot of like cartoons in Hollywood, sent me an article that said, as the show's progressed and the characters have become more and more extreme, Dean is more and more the only human being.
Yeah, he actually was. It got to a point where I was like, he's the only person that makes sense in this whole thing. Yeah, I gave it Hank changed a little bit, and I kind of liked how he changed, but it's like, Dean's still the same.
Yeah, I mean, he's in college now.
Yeah, he's in college now, but he's still the same, but it's fall, that was a long trip. When it comes to anime, though, how was it different to do from, I know you did Leonardo, you did Dean, but how was it to do anime? Was it just a regular flow to like always wanted to do it?
Anime was the first thing I did in voiceover. Actually, my first thing was Bubblegum Crisis in '90 Yeah.
Wow. Wait a minute. So you was in Bubblegum Crisis? I didn't know that. Wow. I really didn't.
And
know
not 2040.
Not 2040. Bubblegum Crisis, the old
stop. Yeah.
Wow. The OVA one, right?
And I got to play guitar for the song "Rock Me" at the end of episode 5. Was it?
Wow. That's like old school.
Yeah. And yeah, it was cool. So I was very excited about that. And that's where I started working in studios and doing all of this. And it's because of that. Southland Studios, Randy Drew, represent. Oh, no, he's not dead. What? That's like a show. I'm not like... he gave me my start. He was a musician that had a recording studio that also did post in Wilmington, North Carolina. Randomly.
Why did I not see that on you? I feel bad because I didn't see that on your filmography. I did not see Bubblegum Crisis.
Oh, yeah? Did you like... Because I don't know how old you guys are, but
we started when anime just began to get big. We were like in middle school and we started watching it.
Okay, like
we were kind of
80s?
watching it a little.
90, early 90s.
I watched it
early
a little
90s.
in the 80s. That's
I don't know,
because of
look,
cousins
no,
that watch
it's
Voltron
like-
and like Macross
I don't
and
count.
stuff.
I don't
so-
count that because I watched
was
it in the
fun,
'80s.
Blazing
No,
Sword.
you watch Voltron. That's the only thing
Yeah.
you watch. That
I
doesn't
count
count.
Superbook though.
I count Superbook too.
Yes.
We do. That's both of us. We
Superbook.
count Superbook.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
do.
Our private school showed us Superbook.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Where,
yeah.
Where'd you go to school?
Full gospel?
We went to I went to a private school, just some church.
Yeah,
some
they
church.
showed Superbook, and I did not know it was an anime till I hit
That's
middle school. And I was
amazing.
like,
Yeah.
they showed anime? What?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, just amazing. You got a Japanese backdrop, and it's basically Japanese trying to explain the Bible to you. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, I don't think that happened, but cool.
So you were okay. So Bubblegum
And then God
Crisis.
smite them, the heathens, with his mighty mecha. Did that
You
happen?
know what? I
No, it
wish
did
it
not.
did, but they did have a walking robot with them. Yes, they did.
A wooden.
That was Toei.
Yeah, it was
Also
Toei.
was.
Toei made it. Pat Robertson went to Toei. Look, you gotta look it up. Anyway,
Yeah.
yes,
Yes,
you
yes.
have to look it up.
Toei?
Yes, Pat
I wonder
Robertson
if
has
they
something
based
to do.
anything in Dragon Ball off of Pat.
I wish they did. I wish they did. I wish they
So
did.
Bubblegum Crisis.
Yeah, sorry. Bubblegum
leading
Crisis.
up to now.
And now, the last thing, I guess, your name. Oh, actually, I just did Fairy Tale. It was premiered
I was
like
about to say,
Friday.
when you was in Fairy Tale. I didn't know who you was.
Yeah,
in.
yeah, I was the mad guy, Dragon Boy, man.
It's a good one. We talked to Vic Mignogna.
Yeah.
And he was doing the Marvel anime stuff. And I know you were
Oh,
part
yeah, I
of
did-
2 of the Marvel animes.
Yes, he was. Yes, he
Tell us a little
was.
story about that. So did you have any stories regarding those things? Like just any sort of, I guess, maybe weird or good stories?
Oh, I mean, that was like a standard anime. It was all completed. It was dubbed. I think they tried to make it sound a little less like we're doing Naruto. But
really?
A little bit, yeah, because it still looks like a total anime, but there's a slightly more attempt at a Western sensibility.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
yes.
Yeah, and I've done a lot of different kinds of dubs, so the styles can change. Like I've done a lot of French movies and stuff. And by the way, you guys got to check out. Have you heard of Last Man?
What? Last Man? What?
Last Man. It's called Last Man. It's a French anime that's just being released. They premiered it. At
Somebody
Rooster
mentioned it
Teeth.
on Twitter. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's bananas. Also, this is the year they're doing all these new hybrid co-pro things. And do you know who LaShawn Thomas is?
Yes.
So LaShawn Thomas is my old friend from New York. I worked on his very first thing, Battlesea, like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Where, long story short, we had to find an urban youth to play our female lead. She's like 16. I was auditioning women to do all this stuff, and I was like, no one really sounds quite right. But there were like 20 girls in my high school class that would have killed this. And so I go back to my high school, and we auditioned some people, and this one little girl, Onika Mirage, like murdered it. She was great. So she came to record in my house before I had a studio, and then she grew up to become Nicki Minaj. What?
No way.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Wait, can you say that on your show?
Yeah, we can, but I'm just.
so-
I
So now, 20 years later, LaShawn kickstarts Cannon Busters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Talked to
yeah,
last
yeah.
year about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and guess what it is now? A Netflix series. So he did that. And then we worked on Crunchyroll's very first original production, Children of Ether, which is
Yeah, I saw
about
that.
to be released.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah,
they
I
announced
heard
it, but it hasn't streamed yet.
Yeah, This,
Oh, man.
this has been fun.
There
Thanks.
you go.
Appreciate
There
it.
you go.
This has been fun. Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right.
Yes, we are here at Otakon with Mr. Roland Keats. How's it going?
Great.
We saw your bio and we were very curious about your book because that's kind of the question me and him we've oftentimes talked about with the way comic book movies and comic books are starting to become a thing now. You know, we were like, when is anime and the whole otaku, I guess, scene, when is that going to like really crack through? So we were kind of curious about like your thoughts, like how did this book come about?
Actually, the book was commissioned by the publisher, and they wanted me to write about, why Pikachu is in the Macy's parade, Hello Kitty, and what's going on here. And they wanted a book for a general reader, so not an academic work, and not a book for otaku, somebody you already know.
Yeah.
But for someone, I suppose, like my American father, my mother's Japanese, my dad's American. So he doesn't really know what's going on with all this stuff. And so it was kind of a book to explain how this interaction occurred, largely starting after World War II, which was when the Americans occupied Japan and Japanese got a lot of American culture shoved at them. And were influenced by it.
Yeah. So, do you really think it's a generational thing? Really, not so much so. Well, it came along. It started to really boom in the '90s, but it started coming along just in segments during the I say between the late 70s on down. Is it more of a generational? There's still a generational gap there, even though it's clearly changing. Do you think there's still a generational gap?
You mean in the U.S.?
In the U.S., yes, that's what I'm saying.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents are in their 70s, and they don't know what's going on. It doesn't make any sense to them.
Yeah, none of it does. I understand that.
And, I think that generation of Americans, I'm talking about older Americans, the whole idea of taking animation seriously and emotionally seriously was very, very difficult because they were raised on mostly the slapstick American stuff, like Tom and Jerry, bong, bang. And then superhero comics, right?
Yeah.
So for them to, be an adult and take seriously a film like Grave of the Fireflies, for example, or Akira, is very difficult. They just don't expect animation to do that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's even possible to, how should I say? I don't want to say educate because it sounds condescending, but I don't know if it's possible to introduce.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's hard.
Whereas you have a generation of Americans who were kids and saw Pokemon or collected the cards, and then they kind of outgrew Pokemon, but they wanted to keep pursuing that style of illustration, that style of storytelling. And they got older and more mature, and they, started to take anime very seriously. Mm-hmm. I think those, you see people here who are like that.
So it's was there anything you discovered that was different? Even though it seems like about the culture itself. Was there anything new that came up to you when you were doing the research about this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I didn't realize how influential American culture was on this sort of leading generation of manga artists and anime artists in Japan. I hadn't really, I thought, I was sort of thinking of it from an American perspective, that this is Japanese stuff, man, the way the Japanese do it. And then, I started talking to people. I couldn't talk to Tezuka because he was dead, Osamu Tezuka, but people who worked directly with him and told me how much he loved Bambi, for example. Disney's Bambi, and watched it so many times and copied the style and everything. I had no idea that for that generation in particular, the influence of American culture, not only animation, but American Hollywood movies, French movies as well. He loved French films, Western culture in general. Really, the format of a comic book was mostly introduced by Americans. Mm-hmm. Now, it developed in a whole different direction when the Japanese took hold of it.
Not even back and forth. Not even back and forth. I think just more so the style, everything.
Yeah.
Just how the storytelling is. You can tell the difference between American comic and Japanese and a manga. You can really tell the difference. Just by the dialogue and just by the pace of the story, you can tell that.
And the number of frames.
And the number of frames, exactly, the number of frames and all that. They loved it.
Yeah.
It was like they just slammed as much as possible. I love that, actually.
Well, that's sometimes the story of Japan America is almost the story of Japan taking some American ideas and then outdoing the Americans.
No, that's actually true. That's actually true. I believe that.
Even if the Americans were not in the competition, it was almost like Japanese would take American ideas and then say, we're going to take this way further.
Right.
Look at trains, right?
Yeah.
When you see these illustrations in Japan of Admiral Perry, the commander, naval commander, who first landed in Japan and started opening Japan up in 1853 to trade. And they illustrate these illustrations of these, white guys with huge noses, because the Japanese thought they had huge noses, and hairy guys, and they're showing them how to operate a steam engine, a train. And then you go to Japan today, and they have
Bullet
train. And you come back to America and look at Amtrak. Right?
We can barely get a train going.
Barely get from place to place.
Yeah.
So it's again sort of taking this Western idea and technology.
Yeah, just exploded.
What's your take on just the conventions and that whole scene and stuff? Do you kind of imply that into your book as well, just the way these conventions have evolved over the years?
Yeah, I actually think that the title of the book is sort of a location in which these conventions take place. There's Japan, and then there's the United States, and then there's a kind of Japan-America, which is these kinds of things, which is, Because this, I mean, people are dressed up as Japanese characters and so on, and they might have a rice ball or something, or look for some ramen, right?
Yeah.
But it ain't Japanese.
No, of course
No,
not.
no.
It's very American.
Yeah.
But so it's almost like the title Japan America is about things like these conventions and groups of fans online and so on, and this, Crunchyroll or something, which is fostering this kind of third place almost.
But just about. I mean, it feels like you're in your own world. Yeah, basically, it's like you're in your own world when you come here. Because I mean, it's coming to any like these kind of conventions to me is like a 180 from say we came from like San Diego Comic-Con a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
And just the atmosphere and the crowds there. I mean, the energy is there and it's all there. But then you come here, you get the same energy, but it doesn't feel as like hectic. It feels like it's its own world and. It's way different than what you see at any convention. I mean, you might get 2 people here that's dressed up as Captain America.
Right.
That's about it. But I've never seen anybody outside that they just dress strictly anime.
Yeah, that's right.
A video game too.
But you get a few anime characters in the Comic-Con.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's starting to like bleed into that.
And I was going to ask you that too. Have you, like, when it comes to like the pop culture, have you noticed that anime is kind of slowly trickling into the mainstream? Have you started noticing that?
It's when I get asked that question, I always have to step back and say, how do we define mainstream?
Exactly. Yeah, I understand that.
I mean, the music industry is a great example. There's so many different kinds of music, and very few artists who sell massive numbers of records. Like probably only Beyonce. I don't know who else.
Not too many people.
You know what I mean?
Not too many people.
Because it's this like long tail of different tastes and so on. People can get music for free, of course, and so it's. I don't know. You now have Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime, and Chinese companies like Tencent and Alibaba, with headquarters in Tokyo, throwing around a lot of cash to produce exclusive anime titles with Japanese production houses. I mean, they're certainly looking, they have money and they're looking at 10 years down the line and saying this is a globally popular media. And if they're throwing that money at it, it's about as mainstream as you can get.
True.
I mean, those are
Very
mega
true.
companies, and they're trying to essentially destroy cable television.
Yeah, that's actually true. We actually talked about that not too long ago. He was saying, this guy was saying that, like, well, this Netflix, this not. Man, eventually, either you're going to have cable or you're going to have to just stay with the streaming services. One of the two.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I believe that. Going back to the little generational gap, I have no idea. But was there any movie you tried? Any show you tried to get someone older, 20 years older than you, maybe not even that older, like, hey, this is the movie you need to try to look at, like, try to get into it. Was there any movie for you that you would suggest to somebody?
I think the first one is the one I mentioned earlier, Grave of the Fireflies.
Oh, one?
Yeah.
That's a rough one to me.
No. It's emotionally.
Oh, it's
Actually, no. I'm sorry.
film.
I'm getting confused. I'm thinking of Barefoot Game.
Barefoot Game.
That's
right.
That's
very
rough.
great.
That's rough.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I got it
But I
confused.
think because if you look at Grave of the Fireflies, it's Studio Ghibli, right?
Yeah. 2D
animation. I mean, it's quite old now. It's 1988 or something. But I think it's hard to watch that without being engrossed and immersed in the story.
Yeah.
And without recognizing the pathos and emotional involvement that this two-dimensional illustration is evoking. Right. That's really powerful. So, I mean, I think, there's a guy named John Dower, an author who's now in his 70s. He wrote a great book called Embracing Defeat about Japan after World War II. He's a historian, an author from MIT. And Boston Museum of Fine Arts was doing a screening of Grave of the Fireflies, the original 35 millimeter print.
Right.
Beautiful. And they asked me to host the screening with Professor Dower. He knew nothing about anime. He knew a lot about Japanese history. So, of course, he asked if he could see the film before the screening. And then he read my book. And when I met him, he said, I had no idea this stuff was so powerful and so mature and such great art. Now not every anime is trying to be Grave of the Fireflies.
Of course not.
Yeah.
But I think if you start with that film, just to get people to realize that they can become emotionally invested in two-dimensional illustrations, and characters that aren't even you're not even trying to make the characters look realistic.
Yeah.
They look like illustrations, right?
Right.
Yeah.
There's no attempt, there's no 3D, there's no CGI, there's
None of that. Yeah.
but you become so emotionally invested in
Just telling
film.
a story. It's just
And
telling
I
a
often
story.
tell older people, it's like,
Voice actors.
it's kind of like
Yeah.
what happens when you read a novel, right? If you just look at a novel in any language, it doesn't do anything to you. It's just a bunch of symbols
Yeah.
on a page, right? You have to go in and decode the symbols, whether the book's in English or Swahili or Japanese. Once you go in there and give yourself up to those symbols, you can become deeply
Exactly.
emotionally touched and involved. And the book can feel very intimate to you, like it's your book.
Exactly.
You get it.
Oh, yeah.
And I try to explain that to older people. So look at the animation, let yourself go. You know, just go into it, trust it.
I made the mistake. I
And
made that
then,
mistake. I made that mistake of the movie I tried to get my dad to watch because I know my father. I was like, "You'll love Ghost in the Shell." He got 30 minutes into it. I don't know what the fuck.
yeah.
It's like a little too heavy.
A little bit too heavy.
Yeah.
It's a little bit too heavy.
I don't always know what's going on.
Yeah, like so, I love Ghost in the Shell. Even I get a little bit. It went over my head.
I mean, I've seen my dad. My dad, you know, he's always been, when I'm growing up, he's like, anime, like, what's these cartoons, you know? And like, you know, it's this thing and stuff, and I build the little Mobile Suit Gundam models and stuff, so he kind of was like, so what's these? And I was like telling him and stuff, so I called him one night, I got home late, and he actually watched the episode of Cowboy Bebop.
Okay.
Oh,
I don't know, I think it was the
That's
one
the-
with Black Dog,
Yeah, that's what
that
don't-
episode, and I'm like, so you watch this stuff? He's like, yeah, it looks pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know, like, it was just random because I'd never seen him actually watch that kind of stuff. He's just like, whatever and stuff. So, I mean, like you said, the generational gap, I just never expected somebody. I mean, he grew up in the era with Speed Racer.
Yeah, right.
That was what he
Exactly.
watched.
That's about it.
So that's about as close to anime you will ever get out of him was Speed Racer and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's weird how some shows, it's like, yeah, I can see him watching that.
Yeah, well, that's a good example because Watanabe, the guy who made Cowboy Bebop, you know, he uses a lot of, how should I say, Western influences, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, you know, some of the storylines, some of the atmosphere. It's like a noir film. It's a little bit sarcastic at times, you know, jazz backdrop and everything. So he's very self-consciously kind of creating a hybrid
Yeah.
with his anime series. So it's a good, you know, it's sort of, if you have a Western viewer, especially someone older, to give them that as an
I can actually say that about
Yeah,
his. I can actually say that about his other work because that worked on people, guys our age, from this. Be honest, black kids. It worked on us with Samurai Champloo.
Yep.
Second, you hear the hip hop music, and it's like, yeah, that draws you in. But the second the story starts, for some reason, it's magic. It works over everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the next episode?
Yeah,
and it doesn't matter how much there is because there is a actual Japanese lore. There's actually Japanese
right.
history in it. It doesn't matter at that point because at that point they got their attention. That's actually kind of cool. I was going to mention Cowboy Bebop. Yeah. That's actually like a good
Jumper
one.
is a good example.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean, you were mentioning, you know, he was mentioning about mainstream. I always felt that people kind of latched on to the Studio Ghibli stuff because it kind of had that Disney influence, and I think Disney did kind of help them out,
They
like
distributing
it out and
Yeah,
stuff.
now at this point.
But like, I was thinking more so mainstream. Like, are we gonna get 30-year-old or 50-year-old, you know, grandmother in Milwaukee or wherever to watch Bleach? That kind of
Right.
stuff. Like,
Right.
because that seems like those kind of animes are a tough sell. I mean, do you ever
Right.
see that maybe happening down the road? People will actually like branch outside of whatever's getting thrown in front of them by Disney, like getting that cosign and stuff.
Well, you have to keep in mind that, I mean, even in Japan, there's a generation, like my Japanese uncle, I mean, he just thinks anything after Astro Boy is just silly.
That is true.
He actually didn't want me to write Japan America. When I told him what I was writing, he said, "Why are you writing about manga and anime?" And I said, "Because they're becoming very popular, you know, becoming the face of Japan overseas." And he said, "That's not Japanese." You know, so there's some, like, the older generation in Japan thinks of, in a way, comic books or manga as a Western thing that Japanese people just picked up and copied.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not just America. There's a generation gap in Japan as well.
And that'd be a good last question because our partner, he actually lives in Japan.
Okay.
And he's telling us, you know, you can't say otaku over there. You can't say certain things. There is an actual gap of, if you watch anime, it's like, okay, stay on that
Even
side.
the conventions.
Even the conventions. And we can see the pictures from the conventions over there. It's, you know, it's
dressed up,
it's
but
interesting. It's interesting, like,
Yeah.
But that being said, do you think now I know at least our generation, the older we get, it was, you know, I guess you could say the mainstream will go more to the mainstream. But have you seen any outside of anything Studio Ghibli or anything? I'm trying to find a good question for this. Put it this way: of all the anime you've seen, anime can pretty much go to any country. Can be in any country. Do you really see people getting comfortable with it? That's like it being the norm. And I don't want to say the norm in America, but somewhat the norm, just to see an anime character like, oh, that's whoever. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I think
outside of Goku, outside of Goku and maybe Pikachu, I don't know, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, again, you sort of have to raise the question: what is mainstream? But certainly, if you go to Asia, you know, China, Korea, or Southeast Asia, I mean, anime is just known by generations. It's not, nobody even thinks of it as really subculture.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what I meant to say, subculture.
Cosplay is subculture, right?
Yeah,
If you just choose to dress up and so on. But actually reading manga and stuff, that a lot of Asians have grown up with it, and they know the titles, and they sort of age up. They follow more mature material as they get older. So it's definitely the case in Asia. I think in the States, you know, it's going to take some time.
Yeah.
But what you already see in terms of the technology is that a lot of Hollywood films use a combination of CGI, animation, and live action. So there's also where the technology is blending. And so it's an interesting case because I could talk for hours on this, but in Japan, people are very conservative about 2D animation.
Yeah.
You know, the Japanese animation should be two-dimensional. They shouldn't use CGI. They shouldn't. Yeah, that's like the Japanese style.
Have not heard that.
And when
no, that's telling.
But if it's a foreign film, it's a non-Japanese film, like Toy Story or something, it's fine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fine if the Americans do it.
Yeah.
But the Japanese style should be 2D, should include some hand-drawn work. So think of a film like Your Name. Did you see that anime that came out last year?
I haven't.
The #1 film. It's the highest grossing animation ever produced in Japan.
Yeah, it is.
I heard it. I just haven't seen it.
It was a
It was
big
huge.
deal.
It was huge.
Yeah.
It was #1 in Japan box office and ginormous. And I know the guys who made it. They have access. They could have made a 3D CGI film, but it's decidedly two-dimensional. It's beautifully drawn, and they use a lot of computer graphics. But it's not. It doesn't try to look like Toy Story.
Yeah.
It's try to look like its own style.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that though.
Appreciate your time, though.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
sir.
Lots of informative.
Thank you. We'll be right here
Clap
at
first,
Otakon.
or-
No, we're good. We're good.
Go for it.
Anyway, we're here with Stella Chuu. How you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. What's up? What are you doing?
Doing good. So
Wait, you shouldn't slam on the table.
No.
You're gonna ruin
Do you know
it.
how many voice actors we talk to that slams on the table? It's like you should know.
I'm trying not. I was like,
No,
oh,
it's
it's on
okay.
the table.
No, you're
I
good.
gotta.
No, you're
gotta
fine.
get
You're
my
fine.
hand away.
You're perfectly fine.
we've you know
I'll
I've
just do
been
this the whole time. I'm kidding.
I've been going to conventions period since basically start of high school. So like 98 and stuff. So cosplay, it was always a big thing. So for you, what was the genesis for you to just jump into just cosplaying?
So what happened was I used to be like anime club president of high school and college. 'Cause I'm a
Great.
huge weeb.
Yes.
But during that time, I was just consuming and not producing anything because I was busy with school and it didn't cross my mind to be contributing to the community at all. So once I graduated college and I was on my own as an adult and I had some income and I went to Katsucon here actually and I was just like, I wanna cosplay like for real, not just casually, because I did some casual cosplay with my anime clubs and whatever, but having like Yaya Han and Vampy Bit Me at the same time at Katsucon in 2011, I was just like, wait, you can like do good cosplay, not just like casual cosplay. You can actually cosplay a lot and be well known for it. You can actually make this a profession somehow, and it just kind of blew my mind, and like gears started turning. And I actually looked to my boyfriend at the time and was like, hey, I think I want to cosplay. And he's just like, yeah, you do already, but like, that's great. I'm like, no, I really, really want to cosplay. Like, I want to be like Yaya and Vampy. And he's just like, okay, that's great. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I really. And he's just like, yeah, I understand. What do I have to do to help you make this happen? And so he was just like, right from the get-go, was super into it. And we got married, and now he's my husband, and he supports me in all I do. So it's great. So if someone says to you that they are down and all over for whatever you want, just like everything you got, then you should marry them because they're fantastic. So ever since then, I've just been going balls to the wall, just like cosplaying, and I've taught myself how to sew, how to make props, and do everything.
I was just going to ask you that too, like, because I have a friend who almost around the same time said the same thing. She's like, I want to do this professionally. She's been going in little places here and there. Yeah, Tiffany, I said, you're only going to little places. You're going to get bigger, girl, don't worry. But as far as like making your own stuff, do you make your own stuff?
Yeah, I do about 90% of my cosplays in a year.
And you had to teach yourself how to sew.
Yes, it was pretty rough. Everything you see here, I made. Like, I made these gauntlets, gloves, some of the pieces on here. So, yeah, like I taught myself how to do all of this stuff because I felt that, well, I'm also a creative person. Like, I went to school for art. I have a bachelor's degree in fine arts. And so I love working with materials and you know, sitting at home and working on something is like my zen place, right?
Yeah,
like,
I hear that.
It's like I just want to be a neat, you know.
Yeah, I
just sit at home like hikikomori my life away.
So how long you been doing that though? How long you been there? Because before you started going in, like you said, 2011, were you doing it before then?
Like, I was cosplaying with my anime clubs. Like, I had my vice president of my club make me a kigurumi before kigurumis were a thing. I was I was Kuroneko from Trigun. Yeah. Of course, no one recognized me. It's okay. It's fine. Whatever. I also did Panty from Panty Stocking Garter Belts in 2011 or 2010, and in like high school, I did Sakura from Naruto. So yeah, I was like cosplaying, but like nowhere near this caliber. Yeah, like as 2011, that was when I was like, bam, let's do this. I'm going deep and really build my costumes. So like my first, I'd say like 5 costumes was commissioned because I didn't want to have like a crappy hot glued costume. So like one of my first costumes was actually Ivy Valentine. So you know that photo that like of like my Ivy Valentine butt?
Yeah.
That I didn't even make that costume. I made the sword, but I didn't make the costume. I made all the armor pieces, but like that was a really well-made costume, and even to this day, I look at it and I'm just like, I don't even think I can sew like that. That was good. It was well worth the money. Very professional.
Like, you know, the way the cosplay scene has just kind of evolved over the years and stuff. Do you? I mean, clearly in its mainstream now, there's actual show based on.
Yeah, Cosplay Melee, Heroes of Cosplay, and there's like tons of other indie shows on like on YouTube and other channels and stuff.
So where do you see the next step for this?
I don't even know, man. It's tough. Like, this is a question we ask ourselves in like the quote-unquote cosplay industry all the time, because it's the Wild West right now for cosplay, where we really don't have anyone leading the way. Like, we got, you know, people like Yaya and Jessica Nigri, who are the 2 juggernauts of cosplay, but it's not easy to follow in their footsteps. One of them developed her entire line of like very successful fabrics for Joann's, which is like not an option for the rest of us. Like, we're not just gonna go manufacture our own friggin' things and work with a factory in China and then get a giant amazing deal with a nationally known brand. Okay, so, and then Jessica Nigri, she's just this like amazing personality that like everyone just like gets drawn. She's like a black hole of like amazing bubbliness, and so everyone who loves her just is sucked in. And I can't bank on that happening to me. I mean, I'm fun, but not as fun as Jessica. If you've ever watched any of her YouTube videos, she's like the funniest person I've ever met. She's like that all of the time. Yeah. Like, not just like for her videos. She doesn't suddenly turn off. She is 100% always that bubbly and funny and like witty. She's like 1,000 million brain cells, and I just wish I had a portion of that. And so, yeah, like those are the 2 role models, and it's so hard to like kind of figure out where we fit in with that, right? Because like there's people who follow YouTubers and are able to find success because it's easy to kind of figure out how to dissect their system that they've created. And also there's like MCNs who work with YouTubers. And so for us cosplayers, like there's no cosplay agency. There's no actual cosplay senpais to like help us through. Like there's no companies that are trying to foster us. Like some companies do, like Riot did like that whole cosplay lab thing where they brought in a bunch of cosplayers to the Riot studios and they did a whole collaboration weekend, kind of like a cosplay camp where they all built stuff together, which is amazing. I wish more companies did that, but the problem is that
oh my gosh, see, so my friend was a part of that. Good for her, yay.
Was it K-Bear?
No, her name, God, what's her name?
I only know two people who was there. It was
K
K-Bear and Kadeem Kadu out were the only two people I knew who went. But yeah, I love them. So I wish more companies would do stuff like that, but it's really expensive for the companies to do that because it's like,
what's the return?
Yeah, what's the return? Well, the thing is, like, we spend all of our time proving that, like, we understand the fan base because we are the fans, and we can provide you with services, kind of, sort of. We're trying to figure that out on our own. Let us know what your marketing team thinks. So, like, we just don't know, man. It's scary. Yeah, and like, I want more people to become professional cosplayers so that we can figure it out together. Because if there's only 3 of us, we can't figure this out. You know, that's not fair, right? There's a huge fan base out there of people who go to conventions, of people who love this stuff. So like, there's no less of fans and money and companies to work with. So I don't know. Oh, help! Help! Somebody start a cosplay agency. Let's
I was just about to say that. Like, there need to be. Does need to be a. Does there need to be like a agency or something like that? One thing I have to ask is, gosh, what is it? Not just do you need a seamstress at hand? Do you need somebody to be with you? But I know a lot of people when it comes to this don't have that type of support system. And luckily for you, clearly you had a boyfriend, now husband, that actually supported you. How important is that, though? How very important is that?
So you don't want to go into this alone. Cosplay is about community. It's about making friends within the community because you do not want to cosplay alone. Like, cosplay was built on the foundation of making friends. It is not a by yourself in your own bedroom type of thing.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And so I was really lucky. My boyfriend, husband, really supported me. Like, he not only just carried my purse, but he took my photographs, he helped me answer my emails, like, he helped me business network with people, and he helped me understand how to navigate as a small business owner, because it's very different when you're just like this girl on the internet, but like thinking about it differently and approaching things differently, like it really helped a lot. Like, he went to school for PR and marketing, so this makes a lot of sense, right?
You lucked up. Wow.
Yeah, I seriously lucked up. Guys,
Perfect.
people are like, oh, your husband's so lucky. I'm like, you do not know how lucky I am. He's amazing, okay? Like, all of my friends are super jealous of how amazing my husband is. He's great. So, yeah, it's like, and then also now, like, when my husband can't go with me to these conventions to help me out, like, I actually hired one of my friends to just, like, come with me. His name's Andy, and he's great, and he helps me not only carry my things, but, like, helps me with my scheduling, like, make sure I get fed and, like, and stuff, and he makes sure that, like, all the people I need to be in contact with at the convention, like the people organizing the convention, like making sure like I have everything set and like, cause I can't pay attention to myself. Like today my friends were like, where do you want to go eat for lunch? I'm like, I haven't even checked my phone. I don't even know what's around here.
What time is it?
What time is it?
I don't know what time it is.
So having that like was a huge relief for me, like having somebody to just like be my assistant at a con, like super helped. And then like sometimes I'll even get my friends to help me make costumes because I'm supporting them and their art, and I get to advertise them, and then also I get like 100 hours free that I would have taken up to build said thing. So I have a Genji costume that is coming soon, and I commissioned my friend from Indonesia to build it for me. I met him while I was in Indonesia, and I'm like, you are an amazing craftsman, and I need to pay you for something because you're just so cool. And so he built me a Genji costume, and it's like en route right now. So I like cannot wait for it to get here.
Cool. I don't know if it's touchy for you, but like the whole thing with like the whole cosplaying consent and all that stuff. Now, like, like for us, we've seen dead serious. We've seen shitty stuff happen. Like from the time we started going to these conventions up till now, we've seen kind of like how things have changed and stuff like that. So what, like from your point of view, what's your take on them actually being active on kind of preventing crappy stuff from happening?
And can I add on to that? Has it gotten better?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love talking about this. So I actually used to run a panel way back in the day before I started cosplaying called No Means No, Defense Against Fanboys and Fangirls, and I ran it at Otakon. I really did. I ran it at Otakon probably like, I don't know, 2009, 2010.
You were probably there.
I was probably there.
It was a really long time ago. And the panel was it was just a really comedic take on how to defend yourself against like people being inappropriate to you at conventions, like when people ask you for your phone number and you're like really not comfortable with it, and like for a lot of people it was just like, oh, I guess I'll give it to you. And anyway, so like I was like, this was my cosplay is not consent before cosplay was not consent, because it wasn't just about cosplay, it was about like in general how to have like proper etiquette at a convention, and it was just like funny and stupid, and I had like a PowerPoint presentation I was so proud of. And so years later, you know, I'm cosplaying and like I was just like, this is just a part of it. Sexual harassment, I guess, is just life. And I would fight against it all the time. Like, you know, there's like one person who grabbed my butt at New York Comic Con and like turned around and had my sword in my hand and like threatened him and was yelling at him, like made him apologize to me and like was threatening to like get security and everything. He ran away. He was so scared of me. He didn't know that the girl's gonna defend herself, and was like, I don't need no man. I'm gonna fight you. So that was great. And then Cosplay's Not Consent came out, and I was just like, whew, I don't have to do anything anymore. They can just do it for me. So it's been great. Like, I'm never worried about sexual harassment at a convention anymore, like ever. Like it does not even cross my mind. You know who I'm afraid of? The people on the street outside the convention, like 5 blocks away, who like don't even know there's like an anime convention happening. Yeah. And they're just like, yo, what are you, baby? And just like come over and touch me. You know, it's like, punch you.
No, that's exactly.
You want fight? So it's like the normies, right?
Yeah. I remember saying that years ago. I'm like, you should be worried about the guys 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
That know nothing of this.
It's the normies, yo. They're the worst.
The normies.
They don't know what they're, and like, you know, conventions that aren't like they're like industry conventions, and they don't know anything about cosplay or the community or like what fans are, like how they act and stuff. Those are the worst, because those are the people who will actually put their arm around your waist and pull you in, and then like try and kiss you or something, or like smell you, and you're just like, security, hello, police. Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
I mean, it's good that it has improved, because that was like my always. Because like I said, you seen like an outsider like watching it, it's like, oh, come on, dude, like you're really messing it up for everybody here. Like,
the only thing I noticed that it got better. The only thing I noticed, like, you know, online harassment is online harassment.
Yeah,
you know?
and I
hate
into that.
I hate to be that person, but that's something that's gonna be here for a while.
Well,
it's getting better, but it's
the job of the social media platforms to police that a little bit better.
It really is.
Yeah,
Twitter
so
has been kind of dropping the ball.
Oh man, Twitter, man. I got banned for defending somebody. Anyway.
Yeah.
Great.
I got banned for defending somebody, and the other person that started it didn't get banned at all. I'm like, well, how did that?
So the internet's very big, and there's a lot
sucks.
of people.
But the internet's good. It gives and it takes away, I guess. But anyway,
thanks for talking to us.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
guys.
so
I hope
much.
you had fun with this.
All right. Yes, we are sitting here with Miss Michelle Ruff. Hi, Miss Ruff. How are you doing?
Hello, good. How are you?
Yes. I'm kicking it off because I got to be honest with you. You are in my top 5.
Wow.
Yes, I love your voice. I love everything you've been in.
I'm honored.
Yeah, so I'm going to hit it off just real quick. There's a lot of episodes of Bleach you did. Did you just enjoy doing Rukia no matter what?
I love Rukia.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't love the filler episodes so much.
You know what? I wanted to ask that question too. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't love those, but I loved the series and I loved her character. You know.
You do a lot of lead roles, and I just want to know: are you up for? Or do they come your way just because of your name, or do you just go out for them and they just picked you?
I mean, sometimes I audition.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I auditioned for Rukia. I didn't know the show. They didn't actually say what the show was or the character name, so it wasn't like I could look it up.
Dry lines, basically.
Yeah, they. But apparently, my voice was very similar to the Japanese actress.
Wow. I guess.
I don't know. I think
I heard it before. I guess.
She and I've done a few shows, I guess, that she voiced, you know, the characters in. So I don't know. I have to kind of listen to her again. Sometimes I think we sound alike, sometimes not. But yeah, I just, if I'm lucky enough to book something, I get in there and do the best that I can. Sometimes I'm, given a job just because the producer knows who I am, which is really nice.
But that don't come often.
Is there any difference? Because I know you kind of are uncredited in Kung Fu Panda and such. Is there a difference in the way, I guess, Hollywood goes about the voice acting versus like stuff from anime, or is it just basically all the same?
I mean, the Kung Fu Panda stuff, like all of those DreamWorks movies, I was part of the Loop group.
What is that?
Oh,
So looping is when you go in post-production after a film or TV show is shot, and you do all the background voices.
Oh, okay.
Or you pick up like incidental characters, like in Home. I did Home too for DreamWorks.
Wow.
And I did a bunch of incidental characters in that. Like my voice is all over that movie. But they didn't give it.
Again now.
If you listen, you'll be like, oh yeah,
I would
oh.
love to, but my sons love that movie too much, and I'm so tired of hearing it.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's fine. But yeah.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
the first time I've heard that, looping.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I heard that term before looping. Anyway.
Yeah, looping, that's, and I do a lot of that, for TV shows and feature films. So, that you really don't get credit for generally. Even though it's like, I thought, oh my gosh, I did so many voices in that film. Like you would think that they would, more than people that actually got credit. But what happens is if you book a show or a film or whatever through your agent, they will negotiate your credit in a film. Like it's part of your contract.
Yeah.
So,
you wanna? We talked to Tony Oliver yesterday about Lupin, so I'm gonna ask you about Lupin. How much do you like doing Fujiko?
I love Fujiko. I love my Fuji cakes. Yeah, it's interesting because the producer for Gurren Lagann for Yoko, we're doing that thing this evening. Hiroe, she was the producer for Lupin. I met her first doing Fujiko, and I really took a chance on the character. I remember hearing her and thinking, oh, I wonder if I can just give her like a little Marilyn Monroe-ish kind of quality. Like without actually being Marilyn Monroe, but just that sort of vibe. And I didn't know if they were going to like it or not, but I just thought, oh, what the hell, I'm going to throw it in there. And I booked it. And I was like, oh, cool. Okay, we're going to go that way. I like it because it's not really, I don't think she sounds like a typical anime character.
Not really.
None of them do.
None of them really do.
Yeah.
Especially on that show because there's a lot of liberties with the writing. At least the first series.
The first series.
Yeah, the first series.
Yeah,
there was a lot of liberties with the writing, but it was actually
Can
fun.
I
That's
just tell you how much fun we had recording that?
But
oh my God.
But don't worry, it was great though because it's like that's very American. I don't care. Keep it going.
That was Rich. Richard Epcar directed it.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of rewriting in the booth, so. We had a fun time with that. We would laugh. Oh my God.
And then you have a voice like Yuki Nagato on Haruhi Suzumiya. It's refined, it's small. Do you like doing that? Like you just basically just very almost robotic almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, she's an alien.
Yeah, she's an alien.
Yeah. I mean, did you see the series?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I watched the. Golly, I watch the movie every year because it's actually one of my favorite Christmas movies. I can't believe I said that. The Disappearance.
The Disappearance.
That's actually one of my favorite Christmas movies. I can't believe
God.
it. I watched it the last 3 years.
It's like when you're watching Scrooge.
What are you watching?
Elf. What are you watching?
I'm watching
Disappearance of
Haruhi. And it's already niche, so everybody's looking at me like, really that one? Like, I like this series. Leave me alone. But anyway, yeah. But when you do that, do you like doing? I wouldn't say little girl voices, but do you like doing that type of voice?
I do. I mean, I feel like each character that I get to play is a piece of myself in a way, and Yuki kind of speaks to that side of me that I usually don't get to be.
Quiet?
Seriously.
Yeah.
Quiet?
Yeah. Reserved, super smart. She's really smart. But it was a challenge. I mean, I won't say that it's easy because, it's easier just talking in my normal voice and doing a character like that. Yuki is a challenge because I know it sounds like this, but there's a certain placement, and it's like your diaphragm and then your vocal cords and the way it all kind of mixes together, and then those paragraphs of like technical stuff that I had to say in one breath.
Oh yeah.
In that voice, it was like
this.
It just
taxing.
It was very taxing, but I love my Yuki. She's very beloved.
Yeah, I'm a big Gundam fan.
Oh, are you?
Big fan. We talked to Stephanie Shea last year because she helped out with Gundam Thunderbolt.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you were part of Gundam F91.
Mm-hmm.
I actually watched that.
Wow.
Yes, I did. That's
throwback.
how big of a fan I am.
Dang.
Like I actually go back and watch all of them and stuff
All
like
the
that. Because I just
Gundams.
watched Unicorn, and somebody was like, "Yeah, F91 is part of that whole series." I'm like, "Really?" It's like, now I gotta watch this now. So it's
Yeah.
like I'm watching it. So I know it was you and Carrie Walgreen was in that, voicing and stuff.
Walgren,
So
yeah.
how was that actually doing that? Because I think that was actually a movie.
Yeah, it's interesting. That was the only time I was ever brought in for a table read for an anime,
Wow, a table.
which means
so y'all come together and read before you go in.
yes.
I usually do that for movies.
That's what I'm saying. Wow. That's, not for anime.
They
I
brought
don't
us
hear
in.
anime.
Yeah, we did a table read for that for the
Wow.
first time in my career, and I haven't done it since for an anime. But I just remember being like, "Wow, this is pretty hardcore,"
Yeah.
I ain't never heard of that.
It was actually pretty good. That's why I was like, wow, that actually, table read. That was like,
Yeah.
That wow.
So
that's crazy.
If anything else, if there's one more question I have, it's when it comes to the lines, and I asked this before to another voice actor, not only say cringe, but when you see some of the dialogue, do you just blurt out and laugh like, "Wow, that's corny," or "Wow, that's like no girl would fall for that"?
Do I have to say this, or can we change the line, or this is really dumb? Or who wrote this?
It is straight from the Japanese, and even if it's translated, it still says like, "Oh God."
Well, even like seriously, like even the translation, like the whoever the writer is in American will write something that just is like so stupid, and I'm not, I love all my writers, but if you get someone who's new, who doesn't quite know the character or doesn't know the show or doesn't, it's like if you write something for a character and that line would not come out of that person's mouth.
Yeah.
Like if I know my character well enough to know that something somebody has written
Just it doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, would not. It just doesn't fly.
Yeah.
I'll be like, excuse me.
All right, that's all
We
right.
got to change this.
I had to ask that because some of the lines I hear from anime is like, how did they do that? Without laughing, without saying, no, I'll quit.
No, I know. And then it'll be like, sometimes I'll be like, really?
No, like no girl in the
Really?
world would fall for this.
Yeah.
They would.
I love you. But anyway,
Thanks for taking time to talk to us.
Yeah, of course.